Okay, friends. So someone a while ago asked, it was Jane, I believe. Jane had asked how to make the Bloom quilt bigger because right now the largest size is 64 by 64, which isn't huge, but if you've got a king or queen size bed and you actually want to make it bigger, what are some ways to do that? So I've got this Illustrator file open. It's using Rancho Relaxo. Um, and so let's just assume we're doing the 8-inch blocks. So right now it's 64 by 64. If we add 2 more rounds of rows all the way around, it would be 96 inches square, which is pretty big, which does cover a king. It doesn't hang over a king fully, but it's pretty big. And so let's just try 96 by 96 for now. So a couple ways that you could do this. I mean, I would like to use existing blocks, so we're not creating any new blocks. One of the easiest ways to do this would be to just add in some borders, right? But I like to create more blocks just to add more interest. So maybe what I would do is take this copy and paste. So remake a row. There. Okay, there's one. Remake this, sorry. I don't know how exciting this is for people to watch, but if you want to watch this process that I go through, you can watch it. Okay, so I'm just repeating rows and tacking them on. Repeat this row, tack it on up here. Do the same with this one. So essentially you're remaking these rows again and just adding them. Sometimes I'll do this, but I'll like flip the rows or rotate them in a different way. Right now that looks pretty cool, but that's just one row that's been added all the way around. Okay, so it's increased by 16 inches in total. So if it was 64 plus 16, it's 80 inches now. Okay, that's bigger, but not massive. And also with these new additional rows, maybe I could switch things up a little bit. I don't have to use the same fabrics. So, you know, these leaves here, all the way around here, maybe I want to change them to something else. Maybe I would like to use this, you know, just to add a little variety and switch it up so it doesn't look like you just repeated a row, if that makes sense. So you're just switching things up a little bit to just add some variety. Let me change this too, because now those look like quarter curves and they are not. We want to make sure. Okay, that looks cool. Or maybe even some more pink in there, or yeah, let's do that one. Okay, so there's another row. And then maybe from that point, you're like, I am done making blocks. This is exhausting. So maybe you would add another 8-inch solid border all the way around. That makes it 96 inches. Or if you want to keep going with blocks, then you could take another row and you could repeat it again or something like that. So maybe instead of just repeating an entire row, let's see, what could we do to make it interesting all the way around? This is a bit of a challenge. I like it. I like the challenge, but it's also a little hard. What else could we do here? Like take this. Is this the row we used before? It is. Oh, what if we, I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see. That's pretty, right? Then we're going to take this one. Okay, so I've added those, but now I've got to do the same for this. So I'll take this one. So this is kind of a pretty motif, right? Ooh. Put that down there. Okay. Look at it from a distance. It looks interesting. I don't know about these on-point squares here that are a little bit meh, right? Little dull. So let's make them into a different, let's use a different print for this. And maybe we could make these ones that nice soft yellow or a larger print because they are larger shapes. So we could go with like the yellow. Maybe that's too much. Maybe we want to go with like a print. That's kind of cool. Or this print. No, that's too dark. I like one of these lighter prints in here. I liked this one. Okay. You're almost getting this really cool star, like this whole block happening here on these corners. That's really interesting. Ooh, so this is pretty cool. Yeah, and also like you could change up any of these colors around the edges to make some different effects. I like this black used here, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I change this dark. It looks really good. Let's just see what happens if we switch it to something else. Also, I'm still only using 13 colors in this. There it is, even darker, the pink or the yellow. I don't know. I liked it in this diamond print. Yeah, so okay, so there, now it's 96 inches, so it is bigger. All I did was repeat some rows and then copy paste them all the way around. It's so much easier on a computer than it is when you actually have to sew the blocks. But there's one option, and that's a pretty quick way to at least enlarge a pattern by just repeating rows. Let's take this and just quickly, because I'm very curious. I would like to see what happens when we take an entire, this half of this quilt. Oh, hang on, ungroup. This is what I do for a lot of my time is spent on the computer just when I'm designing quilts and fabrics and patterns. I'm just playing around in Illustrator for the most part. Oh, that's weird, isn't it? That's weird when you take half the quilt and then that's not good. See, it's slow now because it's got so much, but hang on. But oh, I grabbed one too many rows. Let's drag this up here. I'm really interested in the motif that started to happen in those corners. Like, oh, that's very cool. I could see it. I could see these like stars in the corners of this version. You know what I mean? And I thought, what's happening here? And now look at, like, that's very cool too. That's still a Bloem quilt. That's so neat. This is kind of interesting, I think. It's just going to take a second. Okay, so that's really interesting. Don't you think that's pretty? This almost looks like a medallion quilt. That gives me some ideas. But also, like, I would maybe switch this up to something else. But also, let's have a look because let's group that and try some swatches. Andover, a Rancho swatch. Is there a print we haven't used? That's pretty. There's like a stripy. That could be nice. What are my other yellow prints? Oh, there's a really pretty. That's nice. Maybe. It's not very strong. Oh wait, there's a multicolor. That one looks good. Okay, so I'm just playing around now and not really focusing on the task at hand. In any case, that's my quickest way, my suggestion. If you're going to try and make this bigger, is to just add more rows. The challenge is then you also have to figure out yardage requirements. And unless you're using EQ8, if you've got EQ8, you can build it in there and figure it out. But otherwise, you should just, I just figure buy lots of fabric and then you've got enough to make it. But yeah, so that is my suggestion for how to make these bigger, is to add some more rows, duplicate rows, stick them on the ends all the way around, and you'll get something really interesting. Now, this is so pretty. Like, this is kind of traditional looking, but I really like it. And I'm curious as to how it would look in a different fabric collection. So now, of course, I'm going down a rabbit hole, and let's look at Birdie. Even though Birdie hasn't been announced yet publicly, let's just play around really quick. And actually, we could leave some of the Rancho in here. Select same fill color. Let's make it this print. So in case you can't see here, let's go select same fill color. We'll make it this one. Look how beautiful this is. I'll leave that one, select same. Make it a dark blue. Ooh. It looks good. This looks pretty. Oh yes. See how fun this is. You can see how I spend hours in Illustrator just playing around. Anyway, this is me playing, and that looks kind of cool, that shape. That's it. I'm gonna stop mumbling on, and let's get back to working on the Bloem quilt. You know that behind the scenes, behind this, I'm going to turn this off, this recording, and I'm going to keep playing with this and filling this in with Birdie, which comes out next summer. So I've got lots of time to plan this, and maybe I'll make this quilt. This is still a Bloem quilt, expanded, flipped around. Very cool. Okay, if you have questions, I'm sure you do. You're like, Libs, what the heck were you just going on about? If you have questions, please leave them for me in the comments. If you are serious about wanting to make this quilt larger and you need some help figuring out fabric requirements, I can try to do that. I'd need to do it in EQ8, so that could take a little while. But next week we're starting to cut, so now is the time to decide how big you want these quilts to be. Or, you could even, I shouldn't say that, because even you could just aim for the 64-inch and decide, do I want to keep making blocks and investing more time in this quilt, or am I done, right? So aim to make the 64-inch one. If you want to keep going, then we can deal with it as we come down to the end of the Bloom Along. Okay, that's it. I hope that was helpful. Yeah, I hope that was helpful, having a little insight into how my brain works with making quilts bigger and expanding them without changing the block size, but just making more blocks. That's everything, folks. Thanks for hanging in, and we will chat soon.